All right, let's get reaction to that interview. eNCA's Mabutho Ngcobo joins us now for more. So listening to everything that the King had to say earlier to Sipamandla Mabutho, are you sensing any change in his leadership style to his father's or anything of that sort? How's that interview looking to you?
Thanks, Shahan. It's good that finally we get to hear the voice of King MisuZulu. To answer your question, it looks like it will continue the way it is, because he's saying that he is going to build on the foundation, or he's going to build on the foundation that was laid by his late father, King Goodwill Zwelithini Zulu. So I don't think there will be much changes at the moment, considering what he is saying when he took over officially, finally, when he officially take over the throne.
So what do you reckon we can expect from his leadership going forward? He spoke about how he wants to deal with poverty in rural areas, for example. But that's something, of course, we know that the previous king also tried to deal with, but he's putting emphasis on that now.
Indeed, the previous king was very passionate about rural development. Obviously, he was the king of largely rural KZN. So obviously, it came as no surprise when King MisuZulu is saying that his focus is also going to be rural development, because that is where his constituency is based. So I don't think we are going to see much of changes, considering what he's saying, that is going to build on the foundation that has been laid by his father. Goke tried several times to try to find out what is it that he's going to come up with, but he keep on insisting that we are going to build on the foundation that is laid by his late father. So which means that we are going to continue seeing traditional ceremonies like your reed dance, and other traditional ceremonies that his father used to preside over. So we're unlikely to see many changes from the new king. But obviously, he's younger than his father. He studied in the US. He stayed both in South Africa as well, in Swaziland. I'm told that he's also fluent in Siswati. And we are likely to see some slight changes, but not radical changes, from what I'm picking up from this interview.
So unity, of course, is a big deal for him, because he does admit that the royal family is facing a crisis, because people are not happy about him ascending to the throne.
It's very important. That's a very important issue that you are raising, because at the moment we have a crisis there. And the good thing, he does admit that there is a crisis, because that's where it should start. You should start by admitting that there is a crisis. Then you can be able to find a solution, rather than ignoring the crisis that is there, because you won't be able to find a solution. So he's admitting that there is a crisis, and he's also saying that he's going to do his best to make sure that there is a unity among the members of AmaZulu Royal House. And looking at his facial expression and you know, looking at him, you come across as somebody who's genuine in what he is saying. He's believable in what he's saying. So going forward, probably maybe we are going to see that reconciliation. But at the moment, there is this court challenge that is there in the High Court in KwaZulu-Natal that will be sitting in Pietermaritzburg. So it remains to be seen what will happen in the next coming few days, few weeks, few months.
So given that court challenge, are we likely to see a coronation anytime soon then?
That's a difficult one. I feel for the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Premier Sihle Zikalala, because he has already had a meeting with King MisuZulu. I think last month they had a meeting because after that will, everybody thought that things are now going to go forward. But then apparently we're getting media reports saying that Prince Makate Zulu, the first born of King Zwelithini out of wedlock, his name is also now there in the high. Has been sent to the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal as also another person who is supposed to be the next king of AmaZulu Nation. So it's going to be very difficult for Premier Sihle Zikalala. What is it that he is supposed to do? He's got some options. He can proceed with the coronation, which may be problematic, of course, because there is a court challenge that is there in the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. Or he can push for members of the royal family to find a common ground out of court so that the coronation can go ahead. But remember, we are talking about the kingdom that for years had some problems. I mean, if you look at the history of this kingdom, when King Shaka took over in 1816, he had to kill his own brother to be the king of AmaZulu Nation. And a few years later, King Dingane had to kill King Shaka to become the king of AmaZulu. And years later, his own brother, King Mbande, had to declare war with King Dingane in order to become the king of AmaZulu at the Battle of Maqongo. And years later, even the sons of King Mbande fought each other, King Cetshwayo and King Mbuyaza. I think it was in 1856, so that one of them would become the king. At the end, King Cetshwayo became the king. So it's not something new. It's just that now we don't see the blood spill that used to happen before. But not so long ago, even the father of King MisuZulu, he had some difficulties to take over because there were some disagreements. Some members of AmaZulu Royal House were kind of like in disagreement over him taking over, even before. So it's not something new. It's just that now it's there. It's playing out there in public.
Yeah. But then overall, you have AmaZulu Nation watching all of this play out in the public, right? How do people feel on the ground? Because especially after watching the way he spoke to Sipho Mandla, as you say, very genuine, very humble, speaking of unifying this troubled nation. Are people on the ground feeling the same way? Are they feeling him at all?
On the ground, there seems to be this consensus that he's the one. Remember that in the Zulu tradition and culture, the wife or the son of a great wife, the firstborn of a great wife, is one who's expected to be the king, who take over when the father passed on. So there is that thing. But then on the other hand, you have those who will argue and say that Princess Magate, by the virtue of being the firstborn, should be the king of AmaZulu. So, but if you look at social media, you talk to people on the ground, there seems to be that support for King MisuZulu to be the one who is supposed to take over the throne after his father.
Yeah, it's going to be so interesting. Watch this play out. Appreciate your time and thank you for coming in. That was eNCA's Mabutho Ngcobo.